One of my longtime fans, a guy called Mattis, great guy. He's been watching my channel since I was a tiny channel. I was a baby channel, right? Great guy, Mattis. And he asked a question on my Patreon subscription. He asked me, how do you raise a daughter so that, she's not a whore? Basically. Mattis said it in much more polite language than I'm saying it now, but that was the crux of his question, How do you raise a daughter so that she's not a fucking whore? I answered his question, but it got me thinking, It got me thinking as to, why exactly are women today so promiscuous? Why is it that they have this urge to hop from cock to cock to cock, right? I mean, it's really kind of, quite frankly, it's kind of disgusting, to tell you the truth. Oh yeah, I mean, if you're the guy lucky enough to be fucking these promiscuous whores, it's all good and well, but at some point, no matter how promiscuous you might be, you want to eventually find a girl and have a family and have children, and you don't want the mother of your children to be a fucking whore. You don't want her to have that hard, glassy look of the thousand cock stare. You want her to be like a nice girl. That's what you want the mother of your children to be, not a whore, right? And so it got me thinking, how is it that we got to this position? And more to the point, how is it that you or me, as a prospective father, right? How do we prevent our daughters from turning into these promiscuous women, right? Because we don't want this to happen to them, because all of the studies say and have proven conclusively that a woman who has multiple sexual partners can never successfully pair bond with a man, and she will eventually divorce a man if she's that promiscuous. And this is a statistical fact, and people don't like to talk about it, but it's true. A woman who has had a lot of sexual partners is just not going to be able to pair bond. She is not going to be able to form a successful family. Statistically, the odds are against her. And so this matters. And so let's examine this question. Well, the first thing, obviously, that you have to realize is that so many of these promiscuous women were raised in single mother households, right? There was no father around. No father figure around, she was on her own, okay? Now, how does a woman, a single mother, what does she do to her children? Of course, she loves them, okay? I mean, the worst divorcee you can possibly imagine, I'm sure she loves her kids in her own way, peculiar way perhaps, but she loves her kids, right? What does a mother's love entail? What's going on there? Well, a mother soothes the child, indulges the child. A mother gives in to a child's whims to pacify the child. And you see this all the time, a mother with a couple of kids, right? And they're at the store and they're whining and what have you. And what does the mother do? She buys them a little toy or trinket or something, or maybe some candy bar or something to just soothe them, yeah? That's how mothers interact with children. But how do fathers interact with children? Fathers set rules. Fathers say, this is okay, this is wrong. And there are punishments for breaking the rules. And that's the stereotype. And of course, where does the stereotype come from? It comes from experience, okay? No stereotype just magically appears out of nowhere, okay? A stereotype, by definition, appears in the zeitgeist because so many people do that, okay? This is a natural function of men, of fathers. They set limits. And why is it that fathers set limits? Well, in order to teach the child how to socialize in the wider world. Because if the mother is soothing the child and protecting the child and indulging the child, right, in order for the child to flourish, the man, what is he doing? The father, he is showing the child the limits of society so that the child will successfully interact with that society. The father is acting like the state eventually will, by teaching the child that, this is okay, you can do this, but don't do this or there'll be a punishment. Just like the state tells us, you can go at 45 miles an hour, say, but if you cross 60 miles an hour, you're going to get a ticket. It's the same principle, right? Except, of course, on a domestic level, on a level suitable to children, okay? Fathers teach limits to children. But what happens when the fathers are not around? The fathers are not around, or the fathers are present, but they've been neutered. They've been told that they cannot punish the child, that they cannot spank the child because that's abuse, They can't even, say a cross word to the child because that's abuse, right? The fathers, be they absent or present, well, they're not allowed, they are not putting limits on the children, on the girls, right? And so, the absent father, by definition, is not putting any limits because he's not there. But the present father, who has been neutered by the wider society, which says that any limit is wrong, well, the present father, well, he can't say anything to his daughter. He can't tell her not to sleep around. He can't tell her the consequences of sleeping around. And so what does he do? He does nothing. Yeah, the father just stands around there, frankly, like a cuckold, yeah? Like a cucked out little faggot bitch, doing absolutely nothing. He doesn't tell his daughter the consequences of sleeping around, of promiscuity. He feels that it's not his place, that he feels that he's being judgmental, and that she should live her life as she sees fit, which is absurd, because a child, that is a person under the age of 18 or 16 or whatever limit you want to put on it, right? A child cannot make decisions, life-altering decisions, such as their sex life. The fact of the matter is, when I was 13, I lost my virginity. It was a fucking fluke, right? But the girl I lost my virginity to, she was 14. She had been sleeping around with a whole bunch of people, right? She was a fucking little slut, right? And she had no limits. And she lived with both parents, okay? Both parents were there. They were very well-to-do, yeah? And, she'd been fucking for, she was like 14 and months, and she told me that she'd lost her virginity around 12, right? Oh, what the fuck does that tell you, huh? No fucking limits. People, especially children, need limits. People, most especially children, need to know, not think, not hope, they need to know that there are certain standards that have to be met, that there are certain limits that cannot be broken, cannot be breached. And they constantly test these limits because it's the nature of children. They test the limits because they need to see where those limits are. But if fathers are told repeatedly, incessantly, that they cannot put any limit on the child, then the child realizes that, it's a free-for-all. They can do whatever they want. And so, of course, they do it because they're children, because they don't have any sense. They don't have any conception of the future. A 14-year-old girl will start having sex like a fucking rabbit because she does not realize the effects of this sexual promiscuity on her life into the future because she's fucking 14 years old. She doesn't have any sense. Yeah? It's the job of the parents, of the father, to put those limits and to explain to her. And to explain to her that, she shouldn't be sleeping around. She shouldn't be sleeping around because later, when she's in her early to mid-20s, when she wants to settle down, find a nice man, and build a beautiful family, she's going to be so fucked up in the head from all this cock-hopping that she's not going to be able to pair bond. And she's not going to be able to form a solid family. But, the fathers have been neutered. The fathers have been completely neutered. And so what I advise to Mattis, and what I would advise to every prospective father, is, fuck the fashion, fuck society, insofar as this, no judgment, total permissiveness. Fuck that noise. Tell a child, a girl, that if she starts fucking around, if she starts having sex, she's a slut. And just say that, and say that a slut will have all kinds of problems. And there are plenty of pictures on Tinder or what have you of these women who are in their 20s, and just looking at their eyes, and you can see how their souls are dead, because they have had so much cock. They have they have been so promiscuous during their very short lives, that they are unable to form any kind of healthy attachment to a man. And what a father should do is show these pictures of these poor, broken women to their, 10, 12, 14-year-old daughters. Show them so that they know. You know what freaked me the fuck out about methamphetamine? You know what totally freaked me out? And, I've told you guys, I've done a lot of drugs in my time. Oh, yeah, I was like a little, not a drug addict, but I did them all, right? But I never did meth. And you know why? I'll tell you why. Because at some point, I saw a picture, a before-after picture. Those sets that appear, they're on Google and what have you. But I remember I saw this picture years ago, and I don't recall where. Okay, I'm trying to remember, but I saw this picture of a person who'd been a drug addict, who'd been arrested when they started in their addiction, and after like 2 years. And the difference shocked me. It was this black man. It was in a book, okay? And I think I was in college when I saw this book. And I remember looking at that picture, staring at it. I forget the context of how I came across this book or anything like that, but the picture is seared in my head. In the first picture, or the picture on my left, the guy looked, healthy enough. And in the second picture, he looked like he'd aged 3-4 decades. He looked horrifying, yeah? And it said in the caption beneath, it said, just 2 years of drug addiction on methamphetamine. And I was like, holy fucking shit. After that, I never wanted to try meth. Never. And I thought to myself, man, I want to stay the fuck away from that drug. Because shrooms and acid and pot and maybe a little coke, that's all good and fine. But this shit, no fucking way. I want nothing to do with this shit. I've never had anything to do with that just because of that picture. That picture had such an impact on me because that's how young people are, You tell them something, it's going to go through one ear out the other, right? But you show them a picture, you show them the effects, and they will never forget it. You're a father to a daughter, you love your daughter, you want her to grow up right, you want her to have a happy relationship with her husband and have lots of happy, healthy kids. Well, then you show her. Yeah. You show her what happens to promiscuous women. Yeah. You show her in pictures, you show her, you point that out, and you tell her that you will be disappointed in her if she starts acting promiscuously, if she starts sleeping around, sleeping around willy-nilly just as an entertainment, because sex is not a fucking video game. Sex is not an entertainment. It's not like going to the movies or something like that. For men, it has relatively little effect on his psyche. One more sexual partner, it doesn't really do much. And the fact of the matter is, a guy who's had a lot of sexual partners, he has a certain gravitas. And we all recognize it, yeah? I mean, we all know that guy who's just fucked around. He's got a lot of notches on his belt, right? We can just, almost smell it on the guy. Just one look and we know, right? Yeah. And with a girl, it's the same thing, only it's negative. See? Because a guy who's fucked a lot of pussy, you can tell he's a pussy slayer and he looks cool. He looks with gravitas, but a woman looks used up. She looks like a whore. You gotta show this to the girl. You gotta show it to her. Grab her by the back of the neck and aim her face into these pictures to show her the horror that will happen to her. Yeah, and don't get me started on fucking feminists, okay? I mean, feminists, no help at all. I mean, all these slut walks and shit like that. I mean, think how crazy it is that they are glorifying promiscuity, for crying out loud. Something that we know hurts a woman's psyche. Promiscuity hurts their psyche no different from meth destroys a person. We know that. We see that. That glassy, no-souled eye look. The 1,000-cock stare. We know it, and feminists glorify this. It's as if there was some organization glorifying meth addiction. Imagine some group walking around saying, meth is good, meth is great, do meth. Kiddies, you're 5 years old, 10 years old, try meth, it'll be good for you. What What the fuck? Sorry about that. I get hot under the collar about this shit because it's just really fucking despicable. And the fact of the matter is, see, feminists know the damage that promiscuity does to young women. They know it. And they do it anyway. Why? Because it makes the sluts, the promiscuous whores, who are integral and necessary for feminism, it makes them feel less bad about themselves. They're able to pretend to themselves that the sordidness of their lives is something to be aspired to. You see what I mean? Think about it. It's just like meth addiction. It's like a meth addict, somebody who's just doing meth, every day, 3 times a day, creates an organization to glorify their decay, to glorify their self-destruction. That's what's going on. Okay, I'm losing track in this video. You know why I'm losing track in this video? Because, see, I've got a daughter. She's 6 years old, and she's beautiful. She's like a little angel, right? And, the idea of her turning into a promiscuous whore horrifies me. It's just like the stuff of nightmares, man, yeah? And I already know what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, I mean, my wife, the mother of my daughter, and she was a good girl, okay? A good girl, and I'm not going to get into the details, but she was an exceptionally good girl, okay? Anyway, I know that, when I start saying, when I tell my daughter when she's of age, when she knows about sex, understand, when she's like, 11, 12, something like that, I'm going to start telling her, good girls are not promiscuous. And I know that her mother is going to say, oh, don't say that, blah, 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 you shouldn't. I'm just going to ignore her. I'm just going to fucking ignore her and just keep on hammering home the point. The point is, promiscuity hurts girls. Only whores, sluts, women of no worth are promiscuous. Don't be that way, because it will hurt you. It will hurt you badly and ruin your life. And that's the message I'm going to, pound into her head. I mean, if I have to take a sledgehammer to pound that message into her beautiful little head, that's what I'm going to do, okay? Because I, for one, do not want to be the father of a slut, the father of a whore. And if you do not want that either, then I suggest you forget this bullshit, this no judgment bullshit of like, let people live and let them do whatever feels good. Fuck that noise. And, act more patriarchal. Because they keep saying that we live in a patriarchy. Okay, we live in a patriarchy. I'm the fucking patriarch. And what I say goes. And what anybody else says, fuck that noise.